Do you sometimes feel unappreciated? How often do we hear the complaint that people don't feel appreciated enough, or worse, they don't feel appreciated at all? Can you relate to this lack of appreciation? There is a plain anecdote in the Talmud that best illustrates ingratitude or ungratefulness. Our sages expound on this theme, saying, when the wicked are in trouble, they are submissive. But when their trouble is ended, they return to their wicked ways. This is exactly what happened between Joseph and Pharaoh. When Pharaoh needed Joseph to help save Egypt's failing economy, Joseph and his family were shown tremendous appreciation and treated royally. Once life was going well, Pharaoh seemed to develop a sense of amnesia about Joseph's contribution on behalf of the community. Gone were the thank you and other tokens of appreciation. The effort of Joseph and the Jews were taken for granted. It is basic human nature to want to feel appreciated, acknowledged, and grateful for a job well done, for our efforts, our time, our talents, our skills. A simple thank you goes a long way. When was the last time you said to yourself, I did so much for so-and-so, yet I don't feel appreciated? Or this relationship seems like a one-way street. There is no reciprocation. So sometimes in our personal life, we may feel unappreciated by our own family members. It can be wives, husbands, parents, siblings, even children. Even friends and acquaintances sometimes seem to take our friendship for granted. Often we see a lack of acknowledgement in our business lives from bosses and co-workers. Sometimes it is even a fair and generous boss who is not appreciated by his or her employees. Do you know someone who has ever felt really underappreciated? Is it a feeling that comes and goes, or it is in a way chronic and ongoing? The Yiddish term to describe this sensation is called essen the kishkes, meaning eating the kishkes, or literally we upset our inside, our one's intestines over not being appreciated, taken advantage of, being ignored, or treated in disrespectful manner. As Rabbi Leon of Medina, a Renaissance poet and philosopher, said, a little bitterness spoils a lot of honey. The same can be said about people who dedicate themselves to a particular organization, like a political cause or humanitarian project. Too many give their time, their finances, and their support to causes they believe are important, only to be disappointed by the lack of thank you and acknowledgement. Devoted employees who often, at the expense of precious family time, find that a promotion or bonus for hard work never materializes. So it happens more often than not. The feeling of being used, unappreciated, is a painful feeling which our Torah articulates in great and intriguing details. We can look at our people, the Jewish heroes and heroines, our ancestors, as case histories. Take, for example, the biblical Joseph and Pharaoh, are basically a classic example of a political love relationship that didn't last. A classic example of a devoted person who was not properly rewarded, certainly unappreciated and undervalued. So let's study together just the paraphrase of our texts in the Torah portion. Egypt was those days an emperor that suffered greatly with a bad twist of fate. The country faces tremendous famine with 7 years of no food. Its economy was virtually disappearing. Then Joseph came to the rescue. As the viceroy of Pharaoh, he rose to second in command in Pharaoh's cabinet of advisors. As a brilliant advisor to Pharaoh, Joseph was responsible for building the nation's financial infrastructure. He helped millions of people feed their families through his astute and honest leadership and hard work, a real Yiddish cap. Then, unfortunately, Joseph died, finished, just goodbye, and all his diligent economic efforts for the nation were conveniently forgotten by Pharaoh and his successor. Joseph, a great Egyptian leader, vanished, erased as easily as we, in a modern day, delete data from our computer's memory chip. Then, as we call in Yiddish, the Tzores started, and the Jewish people became slaves, and the rest, as they say, is history. Even after all the good that Joseph and his family did for Pharaoh in Egypt, look what happened. Pharaoh forgot, became hardened in his heart, and turned into a tyrant. We all know what happened to our people, to Jewish people. Instead of Pharaoh and the Egyptians saying thank you, they became evil and reverted their previous inhospitable attitude. Thus began a campaign to murder every male Jewish baby. It makes no sense. The psychopathology, passive-aggressive, schizophrenia, split personality, call it whatever you want, right? It is a total reversal, and it was wicked. A real Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario. So how many times had this plot of love, hate, or peace, war been repeated throughout our history? Look at the world history. Here are some other examples. Take just someone that the Yortzeit is this week, the famous story about Don Yitzhak Abarbanel, a great Spanish Jewish financier during the reign of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel. Jews who was told either to convert or to be killed. Run for your life and out of our country, but don't take any money or possession with you. So he, the great Don Yitzhak Abarbanel, and so many other Spanish Jews were told just to leave, and as a result, so many hundreds of thousands of Jews, many of them extremely wealthy and talented, were expelled homeless just overnight, impoverished and penniless. So in 1450, the Jews were expelled from England, another place. Similar treatment awaited the Jews in Poland, where they have lived peacefully for so many hundreds of years. What did they do to deserve such an anti-Semitic fate? From feeling nationalistic pride wherever they lived, to suddenly, for no sensible reason, Jews were just rejected and traumatized over and over throughout history. It is no wonder our people feel they have been used and abused underappreciated, and not valued. So how should we handle this in a practical manner? So there is no clear or simple remedy to deal with people or groups of people that behave in selfish, irrational way and destructive way. Yet, we have always believed that a person, even the most vile person, has the capacity to turn himself around and change. The best remedy is the little voice in your head that says, do the right thing. So therefore, sometimes it is better to expect less and lower our expectations. In this way, we can feel better about the ultimate reward. We should learn that expecting less means less disappointed. Burnout happens when our enthusiasm and energy get zapped, when we don't see the immediate appreciation or anticipate results. Our disappointment causes us to retreat. We stop helping others, or we lose faith in humanity. It is important to look at the bigger picture, the future results of maintaining our do the right thing attitude. This is called keeping your eye on the target. It requires wisdom, faith, and patience. Perspective has its advantages. Keeping one's perspective on the bigger world prevents the disease known as small-mindedness. So Joseph, the big tzaddik in the biblical portion, time and time again, had his eye on the future, always looking ahead, not just living in a moment, was part of his greatness. Joseph was a visionary, never letting the individual moment drag his down or saddle him with depression or hopefulness. He will rise to the occasion, always considering the bigger picture. Historically, he came out as a winner. We remember him today, so many thousands of years later, as a great man, a great biblical leader, and strategist. This recognition has lasted for so many thousands of years by people all over the world. Certainly, he is highly respected and appreciated. Was Joseph the paragon of disappointment, or was he the eternal optimist? How did Joseph handle such extreme rejection? Did he give up his values? Absolutely not. Did he disconnect himself from the community or his society? Not at all. Yet we know that he was painted by the rejection because we read that he was sobbing on his brothers' necks when they were united. But he didn't give in to his misery. Instead, he became a stronger and more determined leader by doing what he believed was morally right. He took the high road. He always saw himself as a winner. And perhaps, most importantly, he maintained his integrity by living a life based on Torah value and principles. As we say in Hebrew, serve the Master of the universe. So, in this book of Shemot, in this Parshiot, we start the book of Shemot by reading about Joseph. Let him serve as an example of how to live life and not fall into the trap of cynicism, apathy, or bitterness. Always try to be the best person you can. Serve those around you with all your heart and soul and with all your resources. As Hillel, the great sage, warned each and every one of us, in Pirkei Avot, in the Ethics of the Father, and I quote, "Do not undo others that which is hateful to you." In a way, Hillel said, that is the basis of the entire Torah. Do what you do with a full heart. If you receive the appreciation you deserve, well, that is wonderful. Yet, however, if you don't, then pat yourself on the back and learn to appreciate yourself. Give yourself positive feedback and respect. Don't make decisions only because of applause or overt reward. If you expect people to always do the right thing, then you will be highly disappointed. Be part of the community. Help your community and stay involved. Follow the path of peace. As Shalom Rosenfeld, an Israeli journalist, once wrote, history takes revenge on those who refuse to learn from it. Let us be wise, brave, and enthusiastic about our time on this earth. Let us make a wonderful difference, and let us always strive to show others appreciation and spread the message of thank you. Let us all remember that the Almighty God, the Creator of the universe, watches all our deeds, and we should pursue our daily actions for the sake of heaven. I would like to conclude with a Hasidic story from Rabbi Mendele of Kotsk to say that showing appreciation is a big mitzvah, and the reward for a mitzvah is another mitzvah. One gift leads to another gift. So appreciate yourself. Be your biggest fan. Stay humble because you were created by the Almighty God to do good. If you want more appreciation, start with yourself. Show others more appreciation. Shabbat Shalom.